What is up, everybody? This is Recap Rewind. I'm J-Lag.
And I'm NB.
And this episode is recapping, reviewing Riverdale Season 6, Episode 2, and it's called Chapter 97, Ghost Stories.
Don't forget, guys, stick around for the ending of the podcast because we're going to go through our recap roundups and some of your recap roundups, our best moments, our best lines of the episode. So be sure to stick around for that.
And as always, to our continuing listeners and our brand new ones, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Let's get into the episode.
Let's get into it. I just want to say real quick, shout out to at No Context Riverdale, Macy, for covering, co-hosting. It was such a good conversation. And I was like, I want to talk about this too. I watched it a couple of days later, and just to quickly like recap that, it was a great episode, and J-Lag and I like talked about it quickly just to like theorize like what is Riverdale, like what does this mean? Are there going to be like implications that last the whole series? Is it just like this like 5 episodes or 6 episodes?
5 episodes, yeah,
5 episodes, and then like it changed like things. And we talked about a couple of our listeners saying that it might have something to do with like what happened in Greendale. Right. Like what happened in Sabrina, and how like hell basically like came up or something, and then
like the chaos that was happening in like their worlds. There's potential like repercussions for Riverdale since they're so close to each other.
It's almost like it's like a veil of like darkness has come over Riverdale.
Yes, and which is Riverdale.
And I love that theory. So I watched the episode and I was like, I didn't know how to feel, but then when J-Lag said that, I was like, you know what? I'm like, if that's the way they're gonna go with it, I love that, and I would love that that's the parallel that connects the two shows together finally.
Yeah,
I think that would make so much sense. And the fact that like things are happening, like Archie died obviously in that first episode.
Yeah,
it does make sense, but then maybe once that veil is like sort of gone, it makes sense for him to come back,
he returns somehow.
Yeah,
I'm really interested to see, to your point, I'm really interested to see how this all like ends, like the 5th episode. What does this all mean? Where is it all going? We know that I think Sabrina is coming in for the 4th episode from what I like heard in the verse. So I'm sure that'll be like the big situation, and then something obviously will like resolve itself by episode 5. It's just hard because like I was telling you, we just messaged each other really quickly after we watched the episode, and it's just hard to like see it as Riverdale, even though it's Riverdale. And I was saying the same thing to Macy last episode. It's like it's the same characters, they're going through the same things that we knew about in season 5, but it's just hard to like watch it as Riverdale because it's like, but people are dying. There's ghosts involved in this episode, which they've never done supernatural before ever. Yeah. And like they've even said explicitly, like magic is never coming to Riverdale. So for the fact that like it's changed to this, I'm just like, what am I watching? This is interesting.
Yeah. This is sort of like a cheat code where they get to do those things and they get to like push that boundary, which I'm loving it. I think you're loving it too. And I have to say, so far, like I know last week was like kind of like Archie's, but like the richness of the storylines are so good. Like using Reggie, using Charles Melton, using Vanessa Morgan, like there's something so rich about seeing them on screen. I'm like, I love seeing them act.
Yeah.
And it comes through from their characters and their storylines. Like there's just something like pulling me, like a stronger pull.
Yeah.
As I'm watching these 2 episodes. I love it. And I can't wait to like
fresh. It's different.
Very fresh, and like
feels very
the production value is so like you can tell like that freaking woman was scaring the shit out of me. Like I was scared.
Yeah.
Do you think someone's gonna die every episode?
You know what? I think so. Because what is there? 5 episodes. There's 4 kind of main-ish characters. I think that there's something that's going to happen to each of them.
Yeah.
I think the next... Anyway, we'll talk about what's going to happen in the next one when we get there. Yeah. But let's get into the episode. That was my little
recap for that. Let's get into it.
Everybody was asking. They're like, what's NB's take on it? So it starts with Jughead, the narrator, again, in Pops, and he's talking about a ghost story. He says like, this is a ghost story, and he's like, it starts off with the ghoulies fighting the serpents, and he's like walking down an alleyway.
When did this take place? Was this a flashback? Was this like, does this scene happen like years ago or like recently?
So I think it said 3 months later after this scene. So when we're watching the scene, it's like 3 months prior. And so anyway, yeah, like everyone's fighting in this alleyway, and then Tony throws a knife at some kid and she kills him, and it's the ghoulie who fell in love with the girl Sandra. His name's Daniel, and his mother is played by Darla, who in the real Riverdale is that crazy bee.
Shout out to Darla for like having the longest character arc of like any series and like playing an extra basically the entire time. It's funny because I saw a tweet on our Twitter. It was like, wasn't this woman like another gang leader? Like she had her own family gang, and now she's like
another gang.
They just keep recycling Darla.
I know. She's actually really good in this episode.
She is good though.
I loved her. Yeah.
She is good.
She was really good. So anyway, he dies, and then it says the 3 months later, and Tony's talking in therapy. She's saying how she feels guilty about killing him. And the therapist even says, maybe you should try to talk to like his mom, Darla. And she was like, I don't know what I can say to make him feel better, like make her feel better. She lost her son. Like I killed her son. So like she doesn't know what to do at that point. Then it cuts to Jughead and Tabitha at home, and Tabitha's on her way to work. And Jughead is just like maxing, relaxing on this couch, doing absolutely nothing.
I don't think I've ever hated Jughead more in my I'm serious. Like this episode, like the cringe of a useless man. Like there's nothing more infuriating. Like, and I could tell where it was going, and I was like, he's pissing me off so much. Like Tabitha, leave.
They really like leaned into that. Like, they really made him like seem like such a scumbag. But
they did, and then in the end, he doesn't really change. And like she's like we'll talk about it after too. But I'm like, he doesn't really come around. Like he doesn't say like, oh my god, let me hang this picture up finally. Like he doesn't. So I'm I'm still like,
You're cheesed at him, so
yeah, I'm very cheesed.
So she tells him as she's walking out the door to work, like probably like a 12-hour shift.
Yep.
She says, "Can you please put up these pictures?" And he's like, "Yeah, sounds good." I feel like anybody who's been in a relationship,
Lord, if I come back and that shit's on the ground,
I'm not talking to you for the rest of the night. So he's like, yeah. And as soon as it happened, I was like, okay, they're gonna go there with this. Like as soon as like she said,
also their house gives me like it's so dark and dreary, and then like I feel like it would smell musty and like old. Like it's so gross. Like
it's like dirty New York apartment.
Every time they switch to their story, I'm like, ugh. Like,
you're like, get out of here.
Like, they need a freaking DIY like channel.
HGTV. So then it cuts to Veronica calling Reggie at the car dealership. He's working the car dealership still, and it turns out that Reggie's dad is in the hospital. He like I guess had a heart attack, or he's sick, or he's dying, and she doesn't really console him very well, I don't think, in my opinion. I have a lot to say about Veronica this episode.
Yeah, same.
But we'll talk about that when we get there. So then he ends up hanging up, and some guy rolls in with a car that is like basically an exact replica of what he had as his first car when he was in high school. So he was like, I'm buying it immediately. He buys his car off this guy in cash. And as soon as he gets in, he imagines a woman in the passenger seat. Like,
first of all, I love this whole scene. This whole scene, the way it unfolded, there, like the light switched, like he got in, the music started playing, the tone of the light went from like blue to like this like orangey kind of color, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? Like, is he like traveling in time with this car?
Right.
And then he looks over and he sees this woman, and I'm like, who is this woman? Were you not? I was very intrigued. I was like, oh my god, what's happening? Like, this is like what are we gonna get from the storyline?
We still don't really get a full answer by the end of the episode, so I'd like to talk to you about that at the very end of the episode.
Okay,
or maybe anyway, we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
I was very interested because at the same time, at one point in time, like light kind of shines behind her, and I thought that he was having like some flashback of like a car accident or like
and he killed her or something in the car.
Exactly.
And at first I thought it was Hermosa because I'm like, oh, like they obviously had a thing, so I'm like, oh, is that Hermosa? And I'm looking, and I'm like, no, it's not her. It's not Veronica either.
Yeah.
I'm like, did this guy have like a secret like love affair with this girl? And he like crashed the car and like, I'm thinking like all these things, but I was so intrigued. Like I was very excited for the storyline.
Very good storylines opened up for Reggie specifically, not so much for Veronica. So then it cuts to Jughead and Tabitha. Tabitha gets home. Clearly, he did not put up these pictures. She is not happy. So she goes right over, and this is
she's like, fine, anyway. Then I'm gonna do this.
Like this is very relatable content. Anyway, like she goes over and then she starts hammering the wall. Right away, she breaks the wall because the walls are like paper thin apparently, and there's a draft coming through that wall. And so that's when Jughead stands up and he's like, oh, what's going on? They find a room adjacent to theirs, and there's a bunch of scotch bottles that have like little tiny ships in them. And Jughead's like, oh, this is amazing. Like, maybe I can sit in here and write. Like, that'd be amazing.
This man is such a narcissist. Like, it makes my blood boil that people love him so much. The first thought he literally had was like, I'm going to make this into my writing room, and I'm going to write in here, and it's going to be like amazing. And like, I'm going to drink, and I'm going to like, you're so in your own like world. Like, here's this girl who like is still in her freaking work uniform. Like, do something. Like, he just like pisses me off so much. Like,
he's like,
what's his charm? I don't understand. Like,
it's just like the hurt writer, the spurned writer.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, so then he goes and does that. And she's obviously, like, to your point, she's annoyed. She's like trying to push herself through it, obviously trying to be supportive, but you can tell that she's getting a little bit irked by like everything that's happening so far. Then it cuts to Reggie and Veronica, and he gets home, and she kind of gets like jilted by him because he goes straight to like taking a shower. Like, he's just
another narcissist, Veronica Lodge.
He's like, hello.
He's like, hello, I'm here. He's like, I'm going to shower. She's like, he's cheating on me. Like, the first thought she had was, you can see it in her eyes. She's like, oh my God, he's cheating on me.
Something shady. Yeah.
Poor guy. He's just trying to go take a shower.
Like, I need to do this now. Yeah. And also, anyway, we'll talk about after it. There's so much that I'm like holding into my body. So then after that scene, we get a shot of a woman in a veil coming out of the water, and she crosses the Riverdale border. She passes the new sign, and the new sign actually says, and I mentioned this in the last podcast with Macy, and she caught that each time you see the sign, the bottom slogan changes.
Oh my God.
The first time it said like, the very first time you see the sign in the first episode, it said like, you'll never want to leave or something like that.
Yeah.
And at the very end of the episode, it said the town with heart instead of the town with pep. Because like, they took out his heart.
Right.
And then this episode, the slogan was perfect for a rainy stay. So like they're changing it based on, I guess, the theme of the episode, which I thought was kind of cool.
It is like cool.
Easter eggs.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah.
So anyway, so she's walking into the town. Then it cuts to Cheryl talking to Nana Rose, and they're out here like cheersing. They're about to have a drink. They're like, yes, the maple trees are like back again.
Yeah.
And like they're getting all the sap back. And so as they're cheersing, Dagwood comes in. I forgot that she was taking care of the twins, but she's taking care of the twins. He comes in and he says, Mom is trying to take Juniper. And I couldn't like connect everything that was happening. I was like, oh, right, that's Polly's kids.
Yeah.
So she goes to the bathroom. The door is locked, and all she can hear is Juniper screaming. We see as the viewer that this woman is like choking or drowning Juniper. And then Cheryl like grabs her like million keys, opens the door in time. She gets her out, and she sees like bruises on her shoulders as she like pulls her out of the water. And yeah, so like that's the first time we see something really like intense happening with a ghost in the show. What did you think? Like, were you like,
oh my God, I was like, I loved it. It was so good. And like, that's the thing too, like everything was shot so well. It's as if you're watching a legit horror like TV show or movie. Like they did such a good job with it.
Totally. So then it cuts to Betty and Kevin talking about baby names. Can we just quickly, I didn't get a chance to talk about this very much with Macy. Can Kevin just like leave Riverdale?
Yeah,
like,
I thought he was leaving. I thought he was going to Broadway.
I thought he was leaving. We thought he was leaving last episode too. He's still here, and he is the most useless fucking character of all time. He's also one of the characters that willingly, I thought about this after, he was the only character out of all of them that didn't even have his own issue to betray Archie. Every single one of them was like, oh yeah, we'll do it for our relationship. We'll do it for this. We'll do it for our baby. He just like went along with it for no reason.
Does it surprise you?
No.
Does it surprise you?
Not at all. By season 6, I should not be that surprised. But anyway, so he's there talking to Betty about baby names. And she's like, Avi, if it's a boy, Archie. And then Polly, I'm thinking for a girl. Aww. As a quick aside, it's hard for me to like fathom the facts because like I don't know how you feel about this. Like it's such, like we were talking, such a good energy of this new version of the show or Riverdale. But like everybody killed Archie last episode.
Yeah, like can we talk about that? Like, hello, like you killed your baby daddy. Like, do you not understand that?
I like still... Archie for a boy, like R.I.P. Like they didn't do anything. Like, they were just like he's like gone.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that disconnect for me, a little bit, and like it makes Betty just seem psycho.
Yeah, so you want to believe like what she's
exactly. I want to believe in her story and I want to like get excited for her, but then I'm like, bitch, you're crazy. Like you just killed your baby daddy and like you feel nothing. There's a little bit of a disconnect there, and I'm kind of waiting to see what else unfolds because it might change. But you're right. Like
I'm sure, like, anyway, based on the theories that we're like hearing, I feel like everyone in the town is like possessed to some level.
Yeah,
like,
there's something
really off with them because if they're not connecting the fact that Archie has literally been murdered in cold blood, then there's something wrong.
Yeah.
So as that's happening, Cheryl comes in and says, Betty, you need to take the twins for like a hot minute. Your mom needs to take them because there is something happening at Thornhill. Somebody is like haunting us. So like take them for their safety. Then it cuts to Pop's diner and Tabitha is talking to this agent that got them this apartment and she's like, oh yeah, there is a secret room. And Tabitha's like, why don't you tell us about this? And she says, actually, I did tell your boyfriend. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I'm noticing is this fucking agent is out here just trying to break these bitches up. Like she's always dropping like this news like, oh, by the way, like
your boyfriend did
that. And last episode she was like, oh, this is your first time living with your boyfriend? Like, wow, that must be so scary for you. Like you're just out here trying to gaslight everybody. So she's getting frustrated because now she knows that Jughead lied about this secret room. And she ended up saying that she told him the whole story, which is a couple back in like, it looked like the 70s based on their clothes in the end of the episode. Sam and Diane died in the apartment. It was a murder-suicide. She killed him and then she killed herself. Maybe a little bit of information that I would have liked to know.
You might want to tell your girlfriend that. Like...
Like, that's the thing. His reasoning behind this was stupid to me. I was like, why did you even... Anyway.
Because he's stupid.
And
he probably thought it was cool. He's like, ooh, I need to be in a dark space because I'm a writer.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the Shining kind of vibes.
Yeah.
So then it cuts to Veronica and she is working on a plan with a client. Like she's kind of standing over the blueprints of the casino and Reggie's late. He's not there. And she's like, apologizes. She's like, I'm so sorry. He's not here. And she calls him. And he lies to her. He says like, oh, you know, like I got to see my dad. My dad's sick, whatever. But then the school bell goes off. So he gets caught. And she's like, you were in so much trouble, Reggie Mantle. So then she goes to
why was he at school? Like, doesn't he own a car shop? Like, shouldn't he have a garage?
You'd think that they would have done it just there. Yeah. Shop? I guess they're just like, let's make it a little bit more of an awkward situation. So she meets him at school. The car that he bought is in the auto shop and he talks about it. He's like, her name was Bella back in the day. Like, I loved it. It was one of my favorite cars. Like, it's the best car ever. And Veronica's at this point in time, I think she's like interested. She's like, cool. Like, you have a car. That's nice. I didn't see her like roll her eyes or anything. Mm-hmm. And I'm only saying that because like her tune changes so quickly in this episode that I was kind of confused as to why she got to that point so quickly. Anyway, cuts back to Tabitha and Jughead at the apartment. And she's really annoyed that Jughead is like put so much time into like fixing up this room and he like organized all the bottles and like got the typewriter like, in there and
useless, like, do nothing but only for yourself.
Do your stuff.
Yeah.
So she's kind of annoyed about that. And then she faces him and she's like, listen, you never told me about the murders that happened in this house. Like, what the hell? Like, I can't believe you like would do that. And he just defends it by saying like, you really like the place and I didn't want to scare you off. And also the murders kind of sounded interesting. I kind of wanted to write about them. So going back to what you just said,
again,
it's
for his own like
for his
thing.
own benefit. Yeah. So she is still pissed about the lying and he just apologizes and then like you kind of like leave it at that. I wasn't really happy with the way that this all went down because I just don't think that Jughead at this point in time would be lying to Tabitha, his girlfriend, who he asked to move in with her. Like,
I think he would. I
don't know if
because I think he's getting so far into like what he needs to write and his own shit. like thing. To me, he's gonna be whoever he's gonna be, but she kind of surprised me because I was like, damn, she's taking a lot of shit right now. Like someone who's like a boss ass like businesswoman for her. I guess thus far. From him this whole but like time. How they built her character to us and how they sold it was like this boss ass business babe, like this, that, whatever. And like here she is living in a freaking dump, like mildew, like stained walls. And like she's like, that's okay, honey. Like it's fine. I guess it's fine. I'll go back to work. Like, no, like who are you?
She needs to like pump it up a few times.
And obviously she does. Like by the end of it, like she calls him out and like I love that moment. But like again, just like little things that I'm like, I thought you were this person, but you're not that person.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think she still has her own insecurity. She's still worried about like this whole situation. She's by herself.
Yeah.
So then it cuts to Betty and she goes to visit I wrote down Tabitha, but she went to go visit CHONI. And she tells her that she's investigating a case about a serpent named Lucinda who was arrested for drowning her daughter, Sandra, in the bathtub. And if you recall, Sandra is the Daniel, like it was Sandra and Daniel, the ghoulie and the serpent at the beginning of the episode.
Okay.
They were like the Romeo and Juliet West Side Story version. So she's now dead, the daughter. And so Tony's like, okay, I'll go talk to her because there's no way that she killed her own daughter. So in questioning, Tony talks to Lucinda and Lucinda says that it wasn't her. It was La Llorona. Is it Llorona?
Was it Llorona or La Llorona?
La Llorona.
Llorona?
I'm saying this completely.
I feel like it was Llorona, but I could be wrong.
It's like Llorna.
Yeah,
so it's
Llorona.
Llorona, I think. La Llorona. Yeah, I think that's it. How many times are I going to say La Llorona? Where's my Duolingo?
Lala.
Lala, she is out and about. So according to Tony, it is a spirit of vengeance who killed children. Because she was like doing all this research.
Yeah.
And Betty's like, I cannot put that on a report. So like your girl's gonna go straight to jail. Like I don't know what to tell you. Like she's a killer. So then, which is funny in the world that she literally
I like that line.
Husband, but anyway, it was funny to hear.
So I can't do that on the report. It's like, okay, bitch. Like, what else have you done?
So then it cuts to Reggie and Veronica. And they're making out in the car in front of Pops, and a bunch of like high school students like kind of roll up beside them. And as that's happening, like they're cheering Reggie on, and over her shoulder, he's like winking at them and being like, yeah, I'm like making out with my girl. And she notices this and she gets pissed off. She's like, those are my students. This is disgusting.
But like you're parked on the front line of Pops. Like, why don't you tell him to go park in the back and then do your thing? Like you're in the first windows. Like row. Like
I don't know what to say about this situation.
Like, oh my God, they could see us. Like, yeah, you're in the parking lot.
Yeah, I was like, why couldn't you just laugh it off? Like I didn't understand how she was like turned up.
She was like, I'm done entertaining like your fantasies. She's like, this is done now.
Yeah, she was so. And anyway, again, I'll hold it all.
I didn't appreciate her lack of enthusiasm for his like interests and hobby. Yeah. Like he's happy. Like make your man happy. What's wrong with you?
She couldn't even do it for 2 seconds. She couldn't even do it for 2 seconds.
And they were just making out. Like you didn't even like suck his like D like in the car.
And you
could have done so much more.
We're all like, just get down with that.
We're like, what's wrong with you, Veronica? No one is on your side right now.
We're like, if I were you, I would make out with him and
poor guy.
Yeah. So then it cuts to Tabitha, and this is a very Reggie, Veronica, Tabitha, Jughead heavy episode.
Yeah, which it was good. It was good.
I loved it. Yeah. It was so good for that reason. So Tabitha wakes up to Jughead typing and she tells him to keep it down. He's in his office and he's like tick 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 away, and he looks possessed. Like with the very last shot, she grabs a hammer as he's like typing like this and she kills him. So she smashes his head with the hammer, and then that's when she wakes up from her dream. So obviously she's having like fantasies of murdering her boyfriend, which is probably not a good sign for your relationship.
Yeah.
So the next morning she yells at him. Sorry. The funniest thing, but like it killed me because like this is some relatable ass content.
Yeah.
He yells at him for not putting the cap back on to the toothpaste.
Oh, J-Lag feels this one.
J-Lag feels there's obviously like related situations where it's like something so tiny that you just lose your mind.
Because it's not about that. It's like the other stuff.
It's so much more than that. Exactly. So it's just like these little tiny things that you don't realize when you're living with somebody that like make you lose your fucking mind. Like socks on the couch or whatever it might be. Actually, I'm the socks on the couch. But anyways, so she's getting frustrated and she's really annoyed about it. And he's like, okay, fine. Like, I'll put the cap back on next time. And so then it cuts to Reggie and Veronica talking. And she wants to talk about how uncomfortable she was about last night.
Like, that made me very uncomfortable. And he was
I had to watch this scene like 3 times because I was like, wait, what is she upset about? Like, I was so confused.
Did that whole story come out yet about like why he likes the car yet, or we haven't got there yet?
No, not yet. I think this is when it happens. Actually, no, it happens like way after. Yeah.
Okay.
Not even in this.
So
scene.
Yeah, no, she was just very much like not having it, like not having fun, and I just question who she is in this relationship too. I'm like, why are you being so? And he even calls her out. He's like, you made me have sex like on a bed of cash.
On a bed of cash.
You clearly
I did that
have
for
your
you.
own things. Like, why can't you? He's just asking you to make out in a car. She's like, it triggered me to season 1, episode 3 when
Chuck Clayton.
I was gonna say Chuck Bass. When Chuck Clayton made fun of me because I made out with him.
Yeah.
I was like, is she really gonna bring up something that happened like 13 years ago?
But even so, like, why wouldn't you not talk about that before you got into the car and decided to make out with him?
And say like, hey, cars are triggering for me.
Like, let's have sex on money instead. Like, that is my jam. What is your jam that is alternative to having sex in a car? So because of this, I mean, I don't know if it's because of this, but she continually calls his car stupid. She's like, you and your stupid car. And she says it like 3 times. And he's like, what's wrong with you? Like, are you jealous of a car? Like,
the rule to like any relationship, like with a guy is like, you do not make fun of his car. Like, you just don't do that. And for her to be this deep into their relationship where she knows he loves cars because he owns a freaking like thing. She's like, your car, the stupid car, like the stupid car. I'm like,
dumb car. Ugly,
I'm like,
dumb,
at this point, why is Reggie even with this girl? Like,
and that's the thing. I just felt like she escalated to a point where I'm just like, you really aren't entertaining anything that he wants to do or has any ideas for. Like, she's very dismissive of him.
She's very dismissive, but do you think that's because her issue is that if it's not about her and it's not about what they're doing together, she doesn't want to be part of that? Like, she doesn't entertain things that aren't to do with her. Do you think that's
I just
the
think
issue?
that her, like, if you look at the relationship that she had with Archie, if it didn't, like, if she couldn't help, then she got mad. Like, she would always get, like,
she wasn't a part of it.
She wasn't a part of it. She wasn't able to solve it or find a problem that she can figure out. Then she always had this like way of like getting annoyed about the situation because she just doesn't have any control.
And that's her thing. Like, this is his thing with his car, his relationship with his car. She has nothing to do with it. So like, it irks her. Yeah,
exactly. Like, girlfriend, like, everybody which is funny because Archie was literally like running a fucking boxing ring and like doing a million different things when she was dating him. So it's annoying that like he just wants his one thing and she's like, oh, so nice. I can't even be part of it. It's ill.
Yeah. I think that's just the core of who she is though. It's who she is. And seeing her in this episode, I was like, my God, like, she's so desperate to hold on to this relationship or whatever it is that they have.
Whatever
like,
it
she's
is,
holding on to it like desperately. And he looked like he was sort of like kind of veering away a little bit because he's like, maybe he's not having the best time of his life with her, you know?
Side note, really quickly, what are your thoughts on their chemistry as actors?
I think it's okay. I did notice some scenes where like her acting is just like there's something off with her acting compared to him. Like when he acts, like I am in that scene. Like I can feel his like words. He's such a great actor. But when she, maybe it's just because it's her lines, I feel like she just sounds so like, I don't know. I can't explain what it is. Like she takes me out of it almost. Whereas like I think their chemistry is okay. I just think that like he's a great actor and she's not really. I don't know.
I think she's a great actress. I think she's fantastic. I've said it before, like she's really, really good at what she does. I will say that in her defense, it's probably the lines that they give her, the direction that they give her to like make her character so fucking annoying. Like she has nothing to do with that. I think that she's pulled a lot of great stops out on like some acting chops that she's got. But I was just asking that question because I'm like, they used to date in real life, IRL, and seeing them now, it's almost.
But they've been on and off. They've been on and off this time, so I don't know if you can tell in this scene if they're together or not. Do you know what I mean?
Like
I know what you're trying to say.
Off though, you know what I mean? Like whether or not,
but is it off because like the story's off? In this story, they're off.
It could be that, sure. Yeah, and then if that's the case, then they're doing it really well. But I almost feel like even when they're on, it doesn't feel on. Like last episode when they were making out on the bed of money, I don't know if we're supposed to not feel the connection. Yeah. But like when you see like when you see Betty and Archie, like that is a different level to me in terms of how they're able to play off of each other. I don't know. I feel like maybe there's some like
you have a point. You have a point
in there.
I think they're one of those couples where you probably are right. It's just hard to tell, I think, when they are together and when they're not, because I feel like they're one of those couples that like they were broken up, but they're probably just fucking like throughout that time anyways while they were filming. So I still feel like they have this chemistry. Yeah, but I understand what you're saying too. I would speculate
I'm always fascinated, and I always wonder like how much of that bleeds in. It's like the same thing that people asked about with Cole and Betty, right?
It
like,
has to.
Cole and Lily.
Yeah, it has to. Especially when their scenes are so sexually charged. Like they're always making out. They're always like touching each other. Like that is their relationship. So it is awkward. But like in my opinion, I think like even though they're broken up to us as the public, I still think they were hooking up like while they were probably there. You know what I mean?
I hope so. I mean, I think that's hot. Anyway, so then from that scene, it cuts to Pop's diner, and Tabitha, she drops a plate by accident because she's so tired. And I forgot Pops came back. So Pops is back, and he says, are you okay? Like, you look really tired. And she asks if he believes in ghosts. And he says, yeah, actually, a woman died in a deep frying accident, which was very specific. I was like, what happened to her? And he said that the diner was haunted. And he said, but then there were riots in 1980. And after the riots, it's almost as if like the ghosts got like scared of all the sound and they left. So after that, like, there were no more ghosts and it was no more haunting. And so she kind of got the idea like, okay, I have to like cause a ruckus in order for like these ghosts to leave if my house is possessed. Then it cuts to Veronica on a call with Hermosa, and she's basically complaining to her, being like, yo, what's going on with Reggie? And Veronica thinks that he's going through like a quarter life crisis. And Hermosa
did they ever have a conversation that the fact that Hermosa like fucked Reggie too?
Like both of them like
are we not gonna bring that up as two sisters to say like we're good?
They're just like
we're okay. But
we done did the same guy.
We smashed the same guy. We're not gonna talk about that. Okay.
Nope. We're just gonna keep it moving.
Yeah.
Hermosa's literally just taking voicemail calls at this point. The actress is just like
voice
okay,
notes.
you're gonna hire me as a voice note actress. I'm down.
Because she wasn't on screen, right?
Wasn't on screen. Nothing.
Yeah.
So one of the pieces of advice Hermosa gave her was like, yeah, maybe he is going through a quarter life crisis. Just play along. And Veronica's like, yeah, I totally can do that. Like, I'm not jealous at all.
It's not even quarter life crisis. His dad is dying. Like, that is any reason for someone to start like glitching out or like need a moment or do something different. Like their parent is dying. Like that's a huge thing.
And that's the thing that anyway, I don't really understand, because I feel like the way that she was there for Archie also didn't work for him. Remember when that happened, when like Fred got shot?
Why?
Because all she did was like try to have sex with him. Like she didn't even know how to like emotionally connect with him.
Yeah.
And then again, this is happening with Reggie, but like even worse. Like it's almost like she hasn't learned a lesson at all.
That's the part that I have with Veronica, I think, is like
no growth.
She's not growing. Exactly.
No growth.
I was gonna get to the end and say that same thing. Like there is no growth for her. Like in that moment, she could have looked to him and said, like, no, I'm gonna be here for you. And like she does say that. Like she does say, like, it's just you and me now. It's just, but it's a different tone. I feel like she's just saying that to like, it's you and me. Like, let's go like be like the Wolf of Wall Street together.
Yeah,
it's not
she's
like
still
it's
like
you and me. Like I
issues.
got you emotionally. Like it's not like that.
I don't know. Anyway, we'll talk.
I want to see that from her. Like I want to see that part of her come through. It's just like we're not getting that.
Yeah, I have lots of feelings about Veronica. Anyway, we'll talk about that in a bit. But Tony is now reading a book about La Llorona, and she's like seeing all these different images and like pictures of people drowning. And this is when she talks to Betty about these stories and how there's even a story about La Llorona going after an unborn child. And this is when Betty's like, yo, I have a baby that's unborn, so like maybe let's not talk about this. So she like hangs up the phone. She doesn't believe her. And Tony does say like there is something really bad that's happening in Riverdale, and the children are not safe until like this gets resolved. So then it cuts to Jughead and Tabitha, and Jughead tells her how it took him like a full day, but he found out how they get a ship in a bottle. And I was like
that's what you did with your day?
That's what you did with your day? Could you not just Google that shit?
Cool.
Watch a fucking video. So anyway, she lost her mind because she was like, what the fuck are you doing with your time? I feel like as anyone would. I mean, like you're literally like, you could have done that a lot faster. A lot more efficiently. So
efficiently.
Like just be efficient, bitch. So she seems very nervous about him not writing. He's not writing yet because he's like, I'm getting my my creative juices flowing. And she also sees like all these empty bottles that apparently he got from the White Worm. And so he's like, yeah, no, they were empty already. Like I'm just like, I just want to like fill them up with like more ships. Like I have no idea what he wants to do with them. And then he says like, don't worry. Like this is just my process. I'm working through it. Like I'll get there. And so obviously Tabitha has to be like, cool. I guess I'm gonna go with this then. So then it cuts to Betty and she's sleeping. And this is when La Llorona comes in and like does the ookie spooky.
Yeah.
Touches her stomach.
So crazy.
And then she kind of wakes up like in a terror. And then she wakes up and she sees like a wet handprint on her stomach.
Yeah.
So then it cuts to Tabitha waking up, going to the kitchen. She gets to the milk carton. The milk is empty. Oh God, I can't deal. And
that's why you drink almond milk, and it is separate from the milk.
That's different. It's different.
You get your own milk.
Archie's face. Did you see Archie's face missing on the milk?
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah. So he's like on there. And she opens up the fridge and she sees a hammer in the fridge. So she's already like getting annoyed.
Yeah.
Because she's like, what the fuck is this hammer doing in the fridge? Does my like boyfriend also have dementia? Like, I don't know what's happening. So she goes to talk to him and he's like losing it in a good way. He's like, oh my God, I'm on a writing streak. I don't want to show you anything. I never show any of my draft work to anybody. Like it's crap. So I'll show you after. So then she's like, cool. I'm happy for you. She's excited. She's like looking more like positive about everything. Anyway, then it cuts to Veronica and she goes out to check this car. She's like, what is this like? What's so special about this car? And as she's like going through the dash, she finds the picture of a woman that we saw in the beginning of the episode. And she flips it around and it says something like, hey, just so you know, like I'll be here if you ever want to talk. XOXO. That's it. And so she's obviously like, she loses it.
She's like, what? I knew he was gonna notice.
Yeah. So she grabs this picture and she's like stomping through the school and she bumps into Principal Weatherby, who makes her drop the picture. And he's like, why do you have a picture of Miss Soprano? And she's like, who's Miss Soprano? So we find out who this person is.
He's like, didn't you know?
Didn't you know? Miss
no,
Soprano?
we didn't know that. Sorry.
Like
how many freaking
60s? Like who
teachers are like fucking students in this school?
Like between her and what was the other one? Grundy. Like we're out here just like predators. So apparently she was accused. Like there's no like official facts. But
hold on. Sorry. If she was screwing Reggie in school, wouldn't Veronica have been in the school at the same time?
Yes. Yeah.
So how would she have not known that?
I don't know. I don't ask me these
Oh,
questions.
I'm thinking it happened like maybe after, like when he was still in town and he was
Right.
screwing a teacher because he was that's what I thought for some reason. But I'm like, no, if he was a student, she was there too at the same time. That makes no sense.
It make sense. It doesn't make sense.
No.
So she was a driver's ed teacher, and she was like fired or something for the allegations of having like relationships with these students. And he says her name was Isabella. And
he's like some Italian name. I'm like, that sounds kind of like racist.
I don't know, something Italian,
some
like
Italian name.
Isabella. I'm like, okay. And then she obviously makes a connection. I didn't even know what she was thinking at that point in time. I had to like go back and like make this note. But
the car.
She like made the note. She was like, car, Bella. So then it cuts to Tony, and she is in class.
that whole time that we're seeing Reggie before this, like before the flash forward, like he was having an affair with a teacher.
I don't know. But then he does kind of like explain that that's not what happened.
No, like not an affair, but like he had an emotional connection to a teacher that whole time.
I guess, but we just never saw that storyline. It's true. It doesn't really make sense that like we wouldn't have seen it.
It almost would have made more sense if it was Grundy, but then I guess she died so early, it wouldn't have made sense.
Yeah, true. That would have been actually interesting.
It could have just been like a woman, like an older woman. Like, why did it have to be like a
teacher?
I'm like too far into it.
So then it cuts to Tony, and she is in class, and she sees water dripping from the ceiling. And so she goes out into the hallway, and she sees La Llorona like down the hallway. Ooky spooky, all these like really scary moments with this freaking like creepy ass biatch. And so as soon as she sees her, she hits the fire alarm and grabs the axe. And as she's like going through the crowd, like all these kids, I guess they can't see her, but she can see her.
Yeah.
As soon as she gets close to her, she disappears. She doesn't know where she went. Kevin pops out and he's like, "What the fuck?" I was like, "You're so useless. Get out of here." Then it cuts to Betty at Dr. Curdle Jr.'s office. And it turns out that Betty is no longer pregnant.
He's like, sometimes it's called like hysterical pregnancy. She's like, "Bitch, you're the one that told me I was pregnant. Like, who's hysterical here? You told me I was."
But also, I was like, this is what you get for assuming that you were pregnant after literally less than 24 hours having sex with Archie, being like,
he literally, "I'm
pregnant with your baby."
Injected you once and you thought you were pregnant, and like then you killed him. How about you let him stick around for a little bit so you get the results?
Jessica. Wait a few fucking weeks, man.
How about that? Try a couple more times.
You didn't even know if it actually fell through, you know? So he's like, "You may have had a hysterical pregnancy," but she's like in denial. She's like, "No way. Like, I was definitely pregnant." Anyway, then it cuts to Pop's diner, and Betty is telling Tony that she now believes her, and she's going to talk to her about it in like more full detail afterward. That's when Tabitha comes by, and she kind of divulges how she feels about living with Jughead, and how like he's an artist and he's a writer, and how difficult that is. And Betty's like, "Oh, I know, like he's just such a creative."
I love this moment
sometimes. And it's interesting because they don't pit themselves against each other, which I like, but they do like explain that like there is history there that Betty would know that Tabitha doesn't know yet. So she goes, Betty says, like, "I would read his drafts all the time, his like crappy drafts." And Tabitha's like, "Oh, he like let you read his
his vomit draft or something.
Vomit drafts,
vomit writing or something.
Vomit stories or something.
Yeah.
And Betty's like, "Yeah, all the time." She says that he's like, "He used to tell me that it was like good for like the writing process or something like that." And obviously Tabitha's
like, she's like steaming out of the ears.
Alert. Yeah, she's pissed. So then it cuts to Tony talking to a social worker, and apparently someone called her to check in on baby Anthony. And she actually says, "Who called child services? Was it Kevin?" What did you think of that line?
So I was actually gonna ask you that too, because like I'm like, wait, what? Like I'm like, did I miss something? Like are they fighting? Like that he would call.
Yeah.
Is it because he's jealous that she has a baby with Fangs?
Or is it like Fang's baby? Yeah, exactly. So I
like
was
that's
like,
what I
what the F is
assumed.
happening here? Yeah. So I was
Yeah.
like, is there more to this story? Why did she like call out Kevin specifically? Like
Yeah,
she
yeah,
could have
yeah.
called out like
That was
Darla.
weird.
She called out
Yeah.
like anybody else, but like she called out Kevin, and I was like, interesting. Like everybody thinks that Kevin is shady.
Yeah.
And
Truly.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see if like he actually has a bigger part to play in all of this. Because he's pretty much fucking useless right now. So as they're talking about La Llorona, or as they're talking outside, La Llorona comes into baby Anthony's room, and he starts to cry, and then she rushes over and she finds him on the floor in basically like a pool of water, and the like service worker is like, oh, I can't believe you left your baby on the floor. I'm like, you know that she didn't do that though.
Yeah.
Like, that wasn't her. It wasn't her. It was La Llorona. So I was just like, this is so like, I don't understand why they put her into that scene with the child services worker, because the services worker is going to be like, you were sitting right in front of me. Like, obviously you didn't do that.
But and obviously, like in the end, the social worker, nothing really came of that, right?
So
it was like,
yeah,
what was the
very
point?
confusing.
Like,
yeah. Unless we're supposed to hold on to that Kevin point, which I'm like, okay, I'll take it. So anyway, that whole thing happens. Then it cuts to Reggie going to talk to Veronica in the shop because she calls him. And this biatch busted this car up.
dude, she like, do you not have anything better to do right now?
Dead.
Like
I was dead.
you, after that moment, you are like breaking up. Like there is no coming back from you destroying his dream car.
And the way this scene went, I was like, she's such a piece of shit. Honestly, like truly, she's such a piece of shit. So she's sitting there like all like into herself. Like, she's like,
I did this.
Yeah, I broke this car, and let me tell you why. So she tries to explain to her, him being like, I know about that teacher. You were sleeping with her. You were sleeping with her, just like all the other students were sleeping with her. And then
she was taking advantage of you, and it's illegal.
Taking advantage of you, and it was illegal. And like the car's name Bella, and her name was Isabella. Like, what the fuck is going on up in this gig? And Reggie is literally sitting there being like, are you crazy? Like, what is wrong with you? And he
does a good face of like, you don't really know if he's like this bitch is crazy, or he's like, damn, like she's hot, but like she's crazy. Like he's not like so turned off. He's not like, ew. He's not like that. He's like, okay. Like, you know, like he has like a good face.
I know
like
what you're saying. I feel like it was more just that vibe of just like, you got it wrong, you dumb. And now my car is busted.
Yeah.
And I'm really
he's just
frustrated
like sad.
about this.
He's so cute and sad.
And you know what I loved about it? And it's funny that you mentioned that, because I feel like when you think about Reggie, especially in the comic books, you think of this like hothead who's like very like alpha male and aggressive. And in these moments, he could have played it that way, or he could have been directed to be like, okay, Reggie, as soon as you walk into there, you see like that car busted up, you're going to freak out. Instead, he was like defeated, frustrated, angry, because like when he breaks down what happened and all these things, I was like, oh shit, you're an idiot, Veronica.
You're an actual idiot.
So he's like, actually, I wasn't having an affair with her. She was one of the best adults in my life at that time who listened to me when my dad was basically abusing me every day. So thanks for not getting the story right, you idiot. And secondly, my dad is dead. I just came back from the hospital 20 minutes ago. Like, so go to hell.
I'm like, oh my God. He could have like texted her and told her
the
like,
way he
my dad just died.
I was like, whoop.
I know.
Yeah,
I was like, she was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm like, girl, you got the wrong assignment. You got the wrong test. You got the wrong class. You did not go to the right homeroom. Like
wrong teacher.
Everything.
Wrong decade. Like you are not even the right time zone. Like you are off everything, dude.
Oh my God.
So this is when I got really frustrated still, because this is when she has that breakdown and she's like, don't worry, we'll figure it out. I'll always be there for you, just you and me. She has a sweet moment, and like, I don't know how we're supposed to feel as the audience, because I was so fucking annoyed by her.
Me too. And that's the thing, like, it doesn't feel like it's coming from like this place of like, oh my God, like I got you. You know, it's just more of like oh my God, this is like we'll be fine, we'll move on, we'll make more money, and we'll make our casino, and like, you know.
it just didn't feel, and like it's hard to feel anything for a character after she did that.
Yeah.
When like she was in the complete wrong and she didn't even apologize properly. She busted his car for no freaking reason. Like it just, the whole situation annoyed me, and I was like,
and like it broke my heart even more that like he didn't even get mad. He was just like crying, and I'm like, oh, like he has defeated. No fight in him, and he's just like whatever, and like he just like broke my heart. I was like, this guy's not even mad right now.
And that's why I wish there was almost like a moment where Veronica had some time with us, like alone as the viewer, to see her breakdown, to see her feel guilty, to see her feel like she's actually done fucked something up. Like I would have loved to see the next couple of scenes of her being like, okay, I'm gonna call the funeral home. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm gonna get you.
And she does do that, right? Like,
she does all those things, but like, I almost feel like it's always like fixed it.
It would have been nice to see that.
Yeah, the way that we're presented to, like Veronica's presented to us, makes us feel like she doesn't have to work hard for the shit that she causes. And she causes a lot of shit. This isn't the first time something like this has happened. And we don't get to sit with her character. It's always like her in reaction to her fucking somebody else up, or her like coming up with some new scheme, and like it doesn't make us feel emotionally connected to her. Like at this point in time, I was more connected to Hiram than Veronica. And that's a pretty sad thing to say when he wasn't even supposed to be a primary character, and we like ended up falling in love with him by the end of it. Anyways, moving on. Then it cuts to Betty talking to Tony and Fangs at their place about how La Llorona has basically been like lurking through Riverdale, like Rivervale, like doing the walk. And she's slowly walking toward and getting closer and closer to baby Anthony. She finally found her way to baby Anthony when she got to the house with the child services worker. And she goes and tells Fangs, take baby Anthony to the White Worm and like keep him safe. I'm gonna go talk to Cheryl because she's the one who knows about this stuff, and I'm just gonna figure out what's gonna happen next. So then it cuts to Veronica and Reggie talking, and this is when she has the whole conversation about how she's arranged everything for the funeral, and she even gets him a new car. She's like, here's a car.
Again, like so not
tone deaf to me.
Exactly. So exactly. Like, and his face says it all. He's like, cool. He's like, cool.
Thanks. Bye. And like she asks if they'll be okay. And I'm just like, number one, that's a very unfair question to ask when
this isn't about you.
Fuck up so many times.
Like, this isn't about you right now. And that's the thing. We get to the end and she still hasn't learned.
Yeah.
She still hasn't learned. She hasn't
learned, or we don't feel like she's learned. And that's what I'm saying. Like the character herself, like we don't get enough time with her to make us feel like she has any remorse.
No, but you buying him a car and then asking if we're okay, that to me does not show me that you have learned anything in this whole episode.
You didn't wait like 2 seconds. You waited 2 seconds to be like, okay, here's your present. Here's your toy back.
It's not about the it's not about the physical gifts. Like that car meant something to him.
The one thing that he does say is nothing could ever come between us at the very end when he says like, of course we'll be okay. That's why I feel like this story is unfinished and there's something more that's going to happen next. Also, what I don't understand is, just really quickly talk about episode 1 again. Cheryl gets everybody to do this like ritual with her, and she promises to help everybody, but she's not helping anybody. Like, was that a lie? Was that something?
What was she going to help everyone with?
Like she was going to help Veronica and Reggie like stay together and like find a way together. Like she was going to do everything for each person. It doesn't seem like anything that she's doing is helpful. Anyway, kind of back to Cheryl, Tony, Nana Rose, and Betty. They're doing a seance, and they're calling on La Llorona, the weeping woman, to reveal herself. And she does reveal herself by possessing our girl, Nana Rose Blossom. And she's like, hello, everyone. Her name is Martha Mallon. She used to work at the hospital as a nurse way back in the day in Rivervale. And I guess back then, healthcare was not so great and a lot of babies died. And the townsfolk basically blamed her for killing the babies. and they threw her and her kids into Sweetwater River.
Mm-hmm.
Riverdale is fucking savage.
Dude, they're like savages, and they tie like weights to them, and like
yeah,
like you could have just killed them and then threw them in the water. Like they put them in there like alive.
Drowned.
Like,
Did.
wow.
They were drowned. Did. And then Cheryl asks like, who summoned you? And while this is all happening, like Nana Rose is literally like getting pneumonia from getting like fucking coughing up water, and then they break it right away, and then that's when Nana's like, oh, it was Darla. She told me like right before she like took off. So now we know that it's Darla is the one who we have to go after. Darla. So then it cuts to Jughead, and he gets home, and Tabitha is reading his pages. She got into his book, and she is out here reading that shit right up. So this is a really cool scene. I thought it was really, really well done.
Great scene.
She's like, wow, you wrote a story about us and toothpaste. Like she like popped off, and he was writing about all these scenarios that happened, I guess, between the two of them. Yeah. But he was focusing on like Sam and Diane. It was like their story. So he's like, no, it's about the other couple. And like, that's not the reason why they actually broke up. It wasn't because of like freaking toothpaste. It was because of other reasons. Like he was working too hard. And then she goes, maybe she killed him because she got sick of supporting him while he doesn't care about any of her feelings. Not even about being lazy, but like she literally calls him out and is like, you don't even care about my feelings in this situation.
It's true.
And I was like, sis,
no, I was like, she needed to do something. If this didn't happen, I would have been like really upset with
what's
her.
wrong with you? Yeah.
Yeah.
So she gets mad about these Scotch bottles that he brings home. And this is the part that I didn't understand. He brings like a whole case of Scotch bottles home. What's he
doing with that?
Full. And she was like, so you bought
Do you think he
Scotch
was
bottles? I don't know why they did
I felt like he was lying,
honestly.
and he was actually drinking.
But like, why are we doing that again? That was my question around. I was like,
Jughead.
Why are we talking about this on anyways. So
unless it's trying to show us that like it's possessing him, like whatever energy or spirit's like in that place, it's like taking over him, and he's
like making him want to drink again,
or like collecting those bottles or whatever.
Collecting the bottles, right? Yeah, maybe. Anyway, it literally made no sense why he was like, if he wasn't an alcoholic and he wasn't drinking in those bottles, that he even brought full ones home. I was like, this is so doesn't make any sense. So she gets pissed. She like smashes a bottle, and then she grabs the typewriter that Betty got him. Oh, and then she smashes it on the floor, and then like explodes everywhere, and he gets very upset about it all. I was kind of heartbroken because I know that was like such a big memory. It was such
and
a
the way
memory.
He said he was like, Betty got me that.
Betty got me that. I was like, uh-oh.
Boy, you better walk your ass out right now, because there is no coming back.
But I also just felt bad because like also like her, like Tabitha, like you went kind of far too. Like you broke something that like
100%.
It was a gift. Like,
100%.
It's not
I'm sure
yours to break.
That's what I mean. Anyway. Like I feel like they're getting possessed. Like it's not they're not like doing
like
it.
All these women are out here like breaking everybody's toys. Like it's so funny. So funny.
So funny. It's so funny.
So she then grabs a hammer and she's literally about to whack him out. And she looks at herself, she catches herself in the mirror, and the reflection is not her. It's like Sam. We're assuming this is, or Diane. It's like one of the ghosts that are possessing this place. And that's when she like kind of breaks down and she's like, this is not us. Like we're stronger than this. And then she apologizes, and she kind of like, it comes out of her, and she's like, I love you. And I just want to make sure that you're okay. And like, this is what happened. And then he's like, but you love me? Did you say you love me? And I see you shaking your head. How do you feel? I mean, clearly not super happy.
I hated it. Yeah, I hated it. I hated the fact that his laziness and his whole behavior was covered by the fact that she lost her shit and she went too far. Because in that moment, instead of him being the one to stand up and say, you know what, I messed up. I'm so sorry. I really do love you. She had to do all that. She had to say, I'm sorry. I lost it. I broke your shit. I love you. What the hell? Like we spent the whole episode being cheesed at him, and now the freaking tables turn in an instant, and she's apologizing.
You know what? It's so funny because until I talk to you about it, I never really see the full picture. But like it is true that
don't get me wrong, like I think she still had to apologize, but I think I would have liked it if his came first.
No,
and he was like, don't
now,
like yeah.
Now that we're talking about it, makes total
like,
sense.
Why is she saying I love you first?
He
too?
didn't even do that. Like, he's so lazy. He couldn't even say I love you to her. Like,
that's what I'm saying.
They make his character so unlikable in the sense of, like, to your point, like, what is redeeming about him? What has changed?
If he looked up at her and he was like, I messed up, I love you, like I didn't mean to do this, and then she said, I'm so sorry, like I broke your shit, like I would have loved that moment. I would have been like, oh my god, he realized what he did, and like he said I love you to her. He couldn't even say that first. She had to say it.
It's like he's like a baby. It's like he's constantly having to take care of him, and like I don't know. I feel like there's something more deep rooted there that's what I'm saying. They're not quite figuring out with his
every
character.
moment where I think he's gonna redeem himself, or he could. They don't let him do that.
They go another way with it.
He's like, "You said I love you." Oh, he's like, "Yeah, I love you too." Like I was like waiting to say it. Like, bitch, you should have said it then.
Yeah,
it's just there's nothing about him that like I like. Really, there's nothing, and I don't understand how she in that moment was like, I do love you after all he just did.
After all that, you're just like, sorry I broke your fucking typewriter.
Like, now it came out. Oh my god, it was just.
But anyway, let's run with it. They kiss, they make up, and the door closes on its own, and the ghosts like leave. He's like, oh yeah, the ghost left. And she asks like, oh well, like, do you think it was like the ghost, or do you think it was like a little bit of us? Anyway, they kind of leave it at that point in time. They have a final conversation, so we'll get to that point after. Then it cuts to Betty and Tony, and they go to Daniel's grave where they see Darla there, like weeping. And they tell her, like, you're the one that called her up, like called La Llorona up. Like, can you please just like stop her? And Darla basically says, like, I can't. I'm like a scorned woman. I'm pissed off. I'm really upset about it. Once a child is promised, like there's nothing stopping her. She's going to take your baby. So then Betty goes like, it's totally fine though, because you know what? He's being protected by like 50 people. The serpents are going to take care of him. He's totally fine.
He's at a bar 20 minutes away with like 20 people on the east corner of something street. You'll never get to him.
Yeah, you'll never find him ever. And then she made it.
We're making Betty sound like Veronica now.
Yeah, seriously. And she made a really good point, because Darla looks at Tony and she says, if there were 50 men standing between you and your baby, what would you do to take care of that child? Yep. And she's like, I would do anything. And she's like, La Llorona feels the exact same way. So she is coming for your fucking baby.
She just took 2 Red Bulls, so you can imagine her power.
You took 2 Jaeger bombs at the bar. She is popping off, sis. So sure enough, they get to the white worm, and literally everyone looks like they've been drowned.
Dead. Like
dead on the floor.
TKO.
Yeah. And baby Anthony is gone. Fangs kind of wakes up, and she's like, where did they go? And he's like, she's taking him to Sweetwater River. And that's what that's what I wrote down. I was like, La Llorona was literally like, I'm just gonna take him to Sweetwater River. I'll see you guys later. Bye. And then like left.
Yeah, she told them, she's like, I'm gonna go take the main road down to Sweetwater River. There's a little bench. We're gonna be sitting there and eating some cupcakes. So meet me there if they come over here.
Come through, whatever you want to. That's the thing that I was thinking. I was like, we didn't need that scene necessarily. They could have just gone there, everybody unconscious. And Betty, she's smart. She would have been like, just
say like,
Water River. Like that's where she's gonna go.
Yeah.
Anyway, so weird. So then it cuts to Tabitha and Tabitha and Jughead talking, and they close up the wall. Like he's finally doing something.
Oh, he finally did some DIY.
And this is when Tabitha talks about their first fight. She's like, oh my god, we had our first fight. What? This is crazy. And she says, like, is it ever gonna end, like these fights? And he says, love is just a series of tests, and like you just keep getting tested throughout it. And I was like, this is facts.com.
It is test, but it should also be very enjoyable and like fun and a good time. And like, you should still respect your partner's feelings and put up a fucking painting.
100%. But like, I think that's the test part, right? Like whether or not you're willing to put up with that shit is up to her at some point in time, right? Like,
or you get up from your ass and you put up the painting,
or you fucking fix a wall. Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll see what happens with them. I don't know if their story is completely finished either. I feel like everyone's story is always going to end with like a death. So I'm waiting for that to happen for them, I guess.
And some commenters were like tweeting us, and they were like, the fact that he like said Betty's name like already shows like cracks in the foundation.
Everybody's out here just trying to go right back to that like Bughead situation. Fair enough. So then it cuts to Ronnie, and she gets into the car. No, not Ronnie. Reggie gets back into the car, and he sees the picture again, and he actually fixes his mirror, and he sees the woman, Bella, Isabella, in the back seat now, and she's like smiling at him, and he's smiling, and I wrote down, what does that mean? I feel like the story is not finished yet. I feel like there's going to be more to tell with that story. Maybe it does have to do with a car accident. Like, I would not be shocked if there's something that has to do with the car and her and I don't know.
Do you think there is something romantic between the two of them? Like, are you like saying that way, or
no? I think it's more just like he's like carrying something. Yeah. And like, you know, I think that we're kind of glossing over the fact that he literally lost his dad this episode. And so like, I feel like maybe they need to get him to work that through. Maybe we're gonna get that scene. Like, I don't know. Like, what are you hoping for at this point in time with him and this story about his dad?
I mean, I feel like the story of his dad is sort of over now, because there's still so much, I think, repairing to be done from him, but I don't know if they'll give that to him at this point, because they gave him this episode, and it's a pretty big episode for like a secondary, third sort of tier character. The writer didn't comment. She was like, this episode, like, Charles kills it, like, he's amazing, he went somewhere that we've never seen him go before. So I was definitely waiting for a bigger moment, I think, of him being like, my dad's dead, and this and this and this and this, but we don't really get all of that. We just get the, oh, my dad's dead, and I'm sad, obviously. So to your point, like, I do hope there is more to that, because I do think he has so much more to offer. I just don't know if that's going to be like about the dad,
the situation
part.
Yeah, we'll see.
Anyways, we'll see.
So one of the last scenes, La Llorona is out here on Sweetwater River, and she's holding baby Anthony, and Tony tells her, stop right now. And she tells her, I'm so sorry what happened to you. Like, our children, like, your children were innocent. You were innocent. Like, baby Anthony's innocent. Like, can we just like figure this out? And La Llorona says, like, I'm so sorry, but like, I made a contract. I gotta take this baby. Like, I don't know what you want me to say. And Tony decides that she's gonna offer to take her place. And it was pretty emotional, considering like it was like a dark story.
And like, she was like killing herself.
She literally was like, I will literally give my life for my child. And I was like, oh, I love Tony. So she takes the baby from La Llorona, gives it to Betty. She tells Betty, you can't have a kid anymore, so take the baby. It's fine.
She's like, take my baby and take care of him, and tell him that I always will love him.
Yeah, it was actually so.
It was so sad.
It was so sad. And then that's when La Llorona like literally dives in head first.
Sick. I watched it again, and like the frame, like the graphics were really well done.
I love.
She literally jumps into her.
Yeah, she like possesses her, and then the final shot that we see is like her like pulling back the veil, and like it's now Tony. And then she walks into the water. Fucking loved it. I freaking loved this scene. It was good. And I know this is like probably all fake, and like I don't know what the fuck this is. Like, she's obviously not gonna be La Llorona forever, but like I loved it. And the fact that Riverdale has gone to this like weird,
because it has like real consequences.
Yeah, you know? I mean, like, what's gonna happen with this situation? But not even just that, just seeing her, like, the way that the story went from like a human story, my child and protecting my child, to like, I will die for my child, literally become possessed by a ghost and become a demon. I don't know, something about it was just like really well done. I liked it a lot. And I also love Vanessa Morgan. She's amazing. So when that finally happens, Betty like just watches her walk away, and then the final shot again, just like the first episode, Jughead is narrating to the camera saying like, and this is Riverdale, the end. Like, that's it. So going back to that whole idea of like this being narrated by like Jughead, like what does that all mean? Is he connected to this at all? One of the things, I don't know if I mentioned it to you in a text last week, but he talks to, in the first episode, he talks to Archie makes a comment about the fact that he like has all these comics. Like he is like, he loves all these comics. And I was like, okay, writing comics, stories. And then I think Jughead even says like, I'm a very multifaceted person. And then this whole thing with his narration, I'm like, do you think that there's some sort of connection there? Am I off?
You know,
like,
I think you're right. I think there definitely could be a connection there, but I do feel like every time we question something about the storyline, we're always like, is it part of Jughead's book?
Yeah.
Is it part of Jughead's story? Is it part of Jughead's like writing? We always go back to that. So I feel like I'd feel a little let down if it was, because I do, and he's narrating it. Agreed. And he's sort of breaking the fourth wall. And
yeah, totally.
I just feel like it's another cop out of like, is it part of Jughead's storyline? So it could be a possibility. You're right. I just feel like I don't know if I'd like that.
Yeah, I agree with you actually.
Yeah.
Like, even though I think that could be a possibility, I don't know if I'd be happy with it.
Yeah, I think I like the Greendale like connection more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. With that being said, let's get into our recap roundups.
Recap roundups.
Best moment.
What was your best moment?
Oh my God. My best moment was, I think I'm going to agree with you. Definitely. Like that ending scene was like beautiful. Just shows how important and clutch like Tony has been to the entire show.
Yeah.
And especially like with this new like storyline. Yeah, you explain it because it was your.
Yeah, I just thought it was like such a well done scene. It's just like her becoming La Llorona and like what we just talked about, like her sacrificing herself for her child. It was like a really beautiful.
And the idea of this motherly sort of character, because Tony was the first mom from all of those other characters, right?
Yeah,
I think I would have liked if Cheryl was a part of that scene a little bit more, maybe as like an emotional tie to be like, Cheryl to be like, what are you doing? Like, don't do this. And she'd be like, no, I need to do this. And I know Betty was there sort of as that thing, but like, it would have been more, I think.
It would have been more,
like Cheryl,
yeah, it would have been better if it was Cheryl.
Yeah.
I agree. That would have been really intense. I think all the CHONI people would have like loved that.
Yeah. Because then it would also show, there's a little bit of hope there maybe for CHONI. Because right now there's nothing. There's no like.
We're assuming like there's no connection whatsoever.
Nothing. Yeah.
At all. Like that, I would have loved that too, actually. That would have been sick.
Yeah.
But either way, it was beautiful. And like you said, like the effects were really cool. I'm not usually like keeping such close attention to like the special effects and stuff, but I thought it was really well done.
It was
like,
well done.
Even the scenery,
this
the
episode
visuals,
was very expensive. For sure.
I loved it. Yeah, it was great. I know, like they're really putting in fucking value in these episodes.
WTF moment.
What was your WTF moment?
WTF moment, I was just like, there was another teacher at Riverdale High that like was screwing her students that we didn't know about, and Reggie was a part of this. Like I was just like, what is happening?
Come on, you guys. Yeah. My WTF moment is going to Veronica busting up Reggie's car, because I was like, really, girlfriend? I was actually shocked when I saw it, because I was like, you really took it super far. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Yeah.
I hate her.
Has to make it about herself.
MVP.
Who's your MVP?
MVP, I'm gonna give it to Reggie. Also Charles Melton. Love his acting. I just love watching him on screen. There's something really cool and sexy and like cocky about his acting and his character. It's just really fun to watch.
Yeah.
And then also I'm gonna say Darla, because she's literally like fifth tier character, and she's had more storylines than like Kevin and Polly combined, and like longest running character on TV. Like shout out to Darla. MVP.
100%. Shout out to Darla for real. Actually, that's so true. My MVP is gonna go to her arch nemesis, Tony.
Yeah.
Because I think Tony killed it this episode. And you're right. Like, one thing that I just like, you realize that in this time jump, how important Tony's become, to the show. And she's got great acting chops. They're giving her great storylines. I actually was worried, because when you have a baby on a show, sometimes you end up being like a character.
Yeah.
But they're really like doing her well. And like this time jump plus this Riverdale storyline, I'm like down.
I have to say, Tony, Vanessa Morgan, I don't know like who she knows or what happened in there, but like the way her story pivoted from like the original season that she was in, she got so much better, and so many storylines, and like such a huge role. Like she almost like is on the same level as Cheryl, I would say. Like she gets as many scenes as Cheryl is getting. So for her to come as like this really sort of fourth tier character in the beginning, like she's I think she's made the like biggest leap by far out of all the characters.
Absolutely.
100%. And just even her like self-awareness as a character, like we like her more than we like Veronica, and Veronica's part of the core 4. So like,
exactly,
saying a lot.
And it's true, like it shows, like even in this episode when she kills somebody by accident, like we're getting all these, even to this episode, we're getting more growth, more story from her, and I'm just like, why is no one else this cool?
I know,
like literally no one else is this cool.
I know.
LVP. Who's your LVP?
LVP, definitely agree with yours. That was definitely my first. And then Tabitha for saying I love you first to a man who couldn't even hang up your damn paintings.
No, that's totally fair. I didn't even catch that the first time around, but like I 100% agree with you.
Look, it should never be about who said what first in any relationship. It's a fair playing ground. And that's fine. But in the context of what happened in this episode and how bad he treated her, and like he treated her like shit, and then for her to be like, I'm so sorry I yelled at you and I broke your thing and I love you. I hated that. I hated that it came like this in
like
this
she
moment.
had to do all the work to like make it all happen. No, I agree. My LVP is obviously going to be Veronica. It was last episode, this episode once again. I really tried to like think about another character that I didn't like, but Veronica really is annoying me so hard.
I 100% agree with you.
And I really want to know what people are thinking about her character, because I'd love to know people's thoughts on like, where do you think that she's going? Does she have a redeeming quality? Are we interested in what the F she's even up to right now?
I think she does, and I'm excited for it. I want to see it. Like I want to see her like become a real, actual person, and not this like thing from the comics. I feel like I feel like she's the most on brand of who Veronica Lodge is from the comics. You know, like she is that girl.
Yeah.
They don't
and
pull her from. She hasn't changed.
Veer from any of that.
Yeah. So I want to see more of that, and I do think she can have that. I think her losing Hiram is a huge blow to her character, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because like I really, all she has now is Reggie. Like she doesn't even call up Betty to be like, hey girl, you're my best friend. Like, how are you? Like she doesn't even have that relationship anymore.
The problem with her character, and to your point, when you were saying how like, if it's not about her and her like involved in the situation, it doesn't really matter to her. That means that like as a character, she can only rely on being important or special or interesting for us, even as viewers, if she's involved with someone else. Because as a standalone, we haven't got enough time with her to develop on her own for us to even care about what she's up to. Like that's just the tea. Like I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, we'll see what happens with her next character soon, hopefully.
The best line.
What was your best line?
Best line, it was hard to find one, but the one that made me laugh was definitely yours for sure. But then also when like she is like talking to the ghost, she's like, is that you, spirit? She's like, what, who are you? Name thyself. I'm like, why does she have to talk like that? And even when she's like saying everyone's names, she's like Elizabeth, Antoinette. Like Antoinette. Bruh, like you don't call these people by that name. Just say their real names.
Yeah, just say their real names. Chill
it's so
out.
Funny.
Cheryl.
Name thyself. Like what ghost is gonna be like, hey girl, it's me.
Yeah, exactly. Or she's like, I am thyself. My name is. Yeah. My best line is going to Tony when she says, we need to contact that ghost bitch, and she knows how to channel the spirits. Like talking about Cheryl. I just thought it was funny that she said ghost bitch.
Yeah, me too. I loved it. Let's do some of our listener roundups. We got a couple at Mackenzie L. Burns. Best moment, Jabitha saying I love you. WTF moment, Dr. Curdle saying Betty's body made up her pregnancy, even at over 3 months along. MVP, Tony Topaz. LVP, La Llorona. Darla. Best line, protect him, Betty, and please tell him his mother loved him. Aww. For Betty would ask Tony the same thing.
That is so cute. That was a really sweet moment.
Yeah.
At Shoni5 on it says best moment. No one mentioned Archie. Yes. Oh, she's not a fan of Archie, so she's like best moment.
Oh, got it. Damn, Shoni.
A WTF moment, Tony dying.
Yeah.
LVP, Fangs, and Kevin for being the worst parents. I'm like, are we even considering Kevin a parent at all? Like he's
like, I thought that he's not. So what's going on?
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, he is the worst parent. And then MVP, Tony. Shout out to Tony. And then the last one
at BARCHIE enthusiast. Best moment, Tab confessing her love to Jug, but not happy with the direction of the couple. Jughead is still hung up on Betty. I also like Cheryl's reaction to Nana when she nearly drowns to death. WTF moment, Betty losing her baby. MVP Tony, LVP Kevin, still no story. He has to be behind the whole curse.
Ooh. So maybe it is him. And it's funny because we mentioned it this episode. Last episode, Macy said he's very sus. I would be very interested to see what this all means. Yeah. Does this mean that by the end of all of this, he gets banished for life, just like Hiram? Raise your hand if you're down.
Wow. Yeah.
So that is the episode, everyone. I would like to take this time to thank our patrons of the episode: Rewinder Squad, White Nicole, our lit rewinders, Tina Ann, Soleil, and Kate, and our mommy rewinders and a daddy rewinder, Becca, Sarah, Tamala, Grace, and Clint.
Oh, we got a new daddy rewinder. Thank you guys. If you'd like to join our Patreon family, check us out at patreon.com/recap_rewind.
And also, make sure you guys are checking us out on all of our socials: Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. You can also find us on Google Podcasts, Spotify, and iTunes. Make sure you are liking, subscribing, following, reviewing, and commenting to stay engaged with us at Recap Rewind. Thanks so much for listening. We will see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.